So, what went wrong for the Mountaineers in Lubbock? Where does the program go from here? Pull up a chair, sit back, relax. Let's talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Coos, and welcome into another edition of Coos' Corner. Pull that chair up. Let me serve you up another shot of top shelf college football content. What's on tap in this episode? Not a positive episode at all. We're going to talk about West Virginia's embarrassing loss to Texas Tech in Lubbock, 48-10. I'm going to go over the stats from the game, tell you what went wrong on all three phases, all three sides of the ball, and just talk about what I think the program should do going forward and what changes, if any, should be made. First, let's start off with the stats from the game. Obviously, very one-sided. The score 48-10 should tell you that. When we look at first downs, Texas Tech had 33 first downs to only 19 for West Virginia. Third downs, West Virginia was only able to get 4 out of 14 third downs, and that was mainly because they were stuck in third and long for just about the entire game. They just couldn't get off the ground. The running game wasn't going. Just very inefficient play by the Mountaineers on first and second down, which put them in third and long situations. Texas Tech was 9 out of 20 on third down, but even more impressive for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, they were 6 out of 7 on fourth down. Mountaineer defense just could not get the Red Raiders off the field. Red Raiders just ran that fast-paced offense, hurry-up offense, and West Virginia just didn't have an answer for it. They didn't know they couldn't handle it, which was my fear coming into this game. I was afraid that this defense would not be able to match up against this fast-paced Red Raider offense, and that proved to be the case. Now, I didn't see it being a 38-point blowout, but I did feel like our defense would struggle, but I thought our offense, Mountaineer offense, would be able to keep up and score with Texas Tech because I didn't think Texas Tech's defense would be able to stop our offense. However, that obviously was not the case. When we look at total yards, West Virginia only 282 total yards on the game. Texas Tech had 594, so just right at 600 yards for the day. Passing yards, West Virginia only 209. Texas Tech 355. Interesting stat that I picked up from Mike Kazaza and Chris Anderson in their post-game reaction podcast was that Texas Tech had more yards after contact, or yards after catch, rather, in the passing game than West Virginia had total passing yards. So just that shows you how bad it was. Completions, West Virginia was 24 out of 40 passing. Texas Tech was 32 of 49. West Virginia averaged 5.2 yards per pass. Texas Tech 7.2 yards per pass. Interceptions, this was a big one. West Virginia threw 3 picks, all thrown by J.T. Daniels. Texas Tech threw 0. Texas Tech had 0 turnovers on the day, which was one big key for the Mountaineers coming in. They needed to force some turnovers, and Texas Tech had not been good at protecting the football so far this year. And they did put some balls on the ground, but West Virginia was not able to capitalize and recover those fumbles. Rushing yards, West Virginia only 73 rushing yards on the day, just could not get the running game going at all. Texas Tech 239. Penalties, West Virginia only 4 penalties for 31 yards. Texas Tech only 7, so a fairly clean game from that front. Turnovers, like I said, West Virginia turned it over 4 times to Texas Tech 0. The 3 picks by Daniels plus a fumble by C.J. Donaldson in the second half. Time of possession, this is a big one. Texas Tech held the ball for 33 minutes and 51 seconds to West Virginia's 26:09. Time of possession, I don't always look at as a big stat, but in this game, I feel like it was because it shows you how one-sided the game was. Texas Tech just kept doing whatever they wanted to do, was able to basically run the ball at will, pass the ball at will, do whatever they needed to do. West Virginia's defense couldn't get them off the field, and then when West Virginia had the ball, it was third and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. It seemed like one time after the other or a turnover. I just kept giving the ball back to that Texas Tech offense and allowed them to run over 100 snaps once again on the day, which is what they've been doing to teams all year. And they just, they never let their foot off the throttle and just kept pounding it, and just West Virginia could not respond. When you look at some individual stats, J.T. Daniels, by far his worst day as a Mountaineer. He was 23 out of 36, 194 yards, only 1 touchdown, 2 to 3 interceptions. Behren Morton, the redshirt freshman for Texas Tech, was 28 of 54 for 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rushing, Mathis Jr. was the leading rusher for West Virginia, 7 carries for 33 yards. Tahj Brooks for the Red Raiders, 17 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Bryce Ford-Wheaton for the Mountaineers caught 5 balls for 53 yards and a touchdown. Xavier White for Texas Tech 8 receptions, 139 yards, 1 touchdown. So Texas Tech had a 100-yard receiver, a 100-yard rusher, and 300-yard passer. So they just total domination all the way around. Special teams, not really much of a factor in this game. I didn't think neither team did anything spectacular. Neither team did anything bad, just average, okay, special teams play, I guess, but it was so one-sided it really didn't matter. But West Virginia really needed to make a play on special teams to try to flip the game or turn the momentum, but they never were able to do that. They didn't do anything bad, just wasn't able to do anything. As Coach Brown said in his post-game press conference, was not able to do anything to change the game. Now, injuries did play a role in this game. Did not. I don't think it affected the outcome of the game necessarily, but it did impact West Virginia the way they were able to call plays. West Virginia, for whatever reason, only travels with 3 running backs. They travel with 4 quarterbacks and 3 running backs, which to me is baffling. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But 2 of our 3 running backs got injured in the first half. Both Tony Mathis and Justin Johnson Jr. did not play in the second half because of injury, which left C.J. Donaldson as the only back available. He had to play the entire second half. And keep in mind, Donaldson was just coming back from being in concussion protocol the previous week and hadn't played in 2 weeks because we had a bye, plus we had a Thursday night game, then we had this game. So he hadn't played in 2 weeks. And, I'm sure he needed to work his way back in, get back in game shape. Coming off concussion protocol, and yet he was stuck being the only back available in the second half due to neither Jalen Anderson or Marquand Rucker, our other 2 running backs, making the trip. So that didn't help. We had James Gamitter starting left guard that did not play in this game due to injury. That didn't help at all. I'm sure that impacted that running game. And then our starting left tackle and arguably one of our most talented linemen, I'm not going to say best lineman, but arguably our most talented, probably our highest recruited lineman, was highly touted lineman coming out of high school, Wyatt Milam. Left the game early in the second half with an injury as well. I'm not sure what the status of what his status will be going forward. But that being said, this game, even before those injuries occurred, was already getting out of hand. And West Virginia had already shown they weren't able to stop the Red Raiders, nor were they able to put up points on the Red Raiders. They just, for whatever reason, just was not able to do anything seemingly right in this game. Let's look at the offense first. When you look at the offense, like I said, I read you JT Daniels' stats there, but just by far the worst game he's played, in my opinion. Made some bad throws that he normally doesn't make. Left a lot of throws short. He tried to throw a fade route into the end zone for Reese Smith, who is one of the smallest receivers on the team, which I didn't think made a lot of sense when you've got guys like Caden Prather and Bryce Ford-Wheaton who stand over 6 foot tall. He tried to throw it to Reese Smith. He underthrew the ball. The DB from Texas Tech made a great play on the ball and was able to intercept it. And just some other missed opportunities for JT in this game. Just did not look like himself. Now, in his defense, I don't think he got a lot of help. The receivers did drop some passes in this game again. And one thing our receivers did, and they've continued to do all season, they have just not been able to get separation from the defensive backs, man. And that continued again in this game. The West Virginia receivers just cannot get open, it seems like. And it makes them have to catch a lot of 50-50 balls that probably shouldn't be 50-50 balls. And in this game, they were not coming up with those 50-50 balls. And, every catch shouldn't be contested. And they are having to make a lot of contested catches because they're not getting open. And then when they don't make those contested catches, they a lot of times turn out to be interceptions. It happened today. Bryce Ford-Wheaton had a ball seemingly in his hands. The defensive player basically just wrestled it away from him. Bryce Ford-Wheaton either has to come down with that ball or he has to at least knock it away and play defensive back. Cannot lose those battles. But so there again, the receivers struggling to get open, struggling to catch passes again. And West Virginia, just for whatever reason, when they go on the road, they are just a completely different team for whatever reason. It seems like they struggle to win on the road, especially in Big 12 conference games. Obviously, they won in Blacksburg at Virginia Tech and didn't play terrible at Pitt. Left some plays out there, but didn't play terrible at Pitt. Played good enough to win, I thought. But for whatever reason, Big 12 conference road games, they just continue to struggle. They struggle. They looked really bad at Texas, and now they look really bad again in Lubbock against Texas Tech. And it seems like really since Neil Brown has gotten to West Virginia, this team has struggled to win on the road, and those struggles continue. I'm not sure what the problem is there, but for whatever reason, it just seems like they're a fish out of water when they go on the road in the Big 12 Conference. Now let's switch over to the defense a minute. Once again, several times during this game, the defense was not lined up properly. They seemingly didn't know where to go. There was a couple times, and I've seen this on Twitter. I've seen pictures of people posting on Twitter. Dale Wolfman Wolfley actually posted one. And Chris Anderson and Mike Casazza were talking about this in their post-game press conference or their post-game reaction as well. They, you had times where Texas Tech would have 4 receivers lined up on one side, and yet West Virginia would only have 3 defensive backs on that side. So obviously, it's an easy pitch and catch. They're outnumbered, and that happened multiple times in this game. It wasn't just one time. Our defensive backs, for whatever reason, are always 10 to 12 yards, it seems like, off the line of scrimmage. So we're automatically giving the receivers for our opposing teams a 10-yard head start, basically. Now, I understand they're having to play zone because of Charles Wood's injury and because of the struggles we've had in the defensive secondary. But, man, you can't – I mean, if you continue to just give people 10, 12-yard cushions all the time, I mean, you're giving them – you're basically giving them second and third and shorts for the entire game. And, I mean, that makes it even harder on your defense because you're constantly putting their backs against the wall. We continue to not dial up a lot of pressure on defense. Just couldn't get to the quarterback. The guys did not look prepared, didn't look ready, didn't look like they knew what to do in a lot of cases. And this just continues to be, it's like beating a dead horse, man. This just continues to be the same story over and over again with this Mountaineer team. And the fan base is aggravated. They're upset. They're angry, and they're calling for change, and rightfully so. I mean, when you have the same mistakes being made in week 8 of the season, the team's 7th game, and guys still aren't prepared to play, I put that on the coaching staff. You have to. You could say, well, it ain't the coaches making the mistakes. It's not. But it is the coach's job. The coaches are picking the players to put in the game. They recruit the players. They take the players they think fit into their system. And if the players don't fit into the system or can't pick up the system, then the coach shouldn't have picked that player. Okay, shouldn't have recruited that player. 2, if the players aren't prepared, maybe they're not being the preparation the week before the game's not good enough from the coaching standpoint. That's on the coaches. If the players aren't putting enough time in the film room, studying film before the games, that's on the players. However, the coaches need to get players who are more hungry and want to put in time in the film room. I mean, you've got to get those kind of guys. And it looks to me, I'll be honest with you, I think our coaching staff has just missed on a lot of guys. And you can't miss when you're a team like West Virginia, when you're already not getting 5- and 4-star guys. You can't miss. You've got to get guys that are going to buy into what you're doing and are going to be able to do what you're doing. They're going to be able to execute what you're trying to ask them to execute. You can't miss on those guys. And it looks like this staff has missed on multiple guys, especially on the defensive side, and they've just not been able to build depth. Another strategy that this coaching staff has taken on that Neil Brown has openly talked about is on the offensive line. Now, our offensive line has not played terrible this year. They have looked much better in some games. In some games like this one, they didn't look so good. But that being said, the coaching staff purposely wanted to play with young guys in the 2019-2020 seasons. There wasn't a lot of depth at that position. They knew it. They knew they'd be young, but they decided to take the approach Kentucky took and basically start young guys, and by the time those guys got to be juniors and seniors, it would pay off. Well, it's not paying off. So that is another strategy that this coaching staff has chosen to go with that's not worked. Instead of going out and getting experienced offensive linemen out of the transfer portal, they decided to stick with the young guys, inexperienced guys. Those guys are more experienced now, but for whatever reason, there are some games they're just not executing up to their capabilities. I don't know what it is. I'm sure the injury to Gamitter had something to do with that. But there again, if your offense collapses because one guy goes down with an injury, that's a problem. That's a depth issue, and that once again falls back on coaching. You've got to build depth. And yes, I've seen a lot of fans, well, we lost so many guys in the portal. That's, once again, it's the coach's job to retain talent on the team. And if you do lose guys, you've got to replace them with guys that are as good or better. And this coaching staff is not doing that. They're not getting the right talent here, or they're not developing the talent they've gotten, or they're not putting them in the right positions to excel, or it may be all of the above. And I personally think it might be all of the above. I'm not saying the players they're getting aren't talented, but I don't think they fit what this coaching staff's trying to do necessarily in all cases. And it's not working for whatever reason. Look, Coach Neil Brown seems to be a great guy. He seems to be a good recruiter. He seems to be checking all the right boxes in every other category, but he's not getting the job done on the field. Maybe his assistant coaches aren't good enough. Whatever the case may be, I don't know what it is, but I do know one thing: as fans, we are demanding. Many of us, anyway, are demanding change. Fans are going to. Fans will. People can talk about the buyout all they want to. When fans stop showing up to games and it starts costing your team hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars per game in ticket sales and concessions and merch sales, that will definitely cost you more than what you'll have to pay to buy out Coach Brown's contract. And that's what's happening, going to start happening. We've already seen it. The Baylor game, there were only about 45,000 people at that game. And I got a feeling next weekend for TCU, there may be less than that. And it's homecoming weekend. So it'll be embarrassing if because this game's going to be on ESPN at noon. It's been announced. We play TCU at noon on ESPN. It's on national television. If there's not a good showing at Mountaineer Field, it's going to show on national television, and it's not a good look for the program. But the fan base is getting apathetic, and they don't want to spend their hard-earned money on a product that's not entertaining. Let's just face it. And Coach Brown even said that himself last year after one game. He said, "We're in the entertainment business, and our job is to put a good product out there, and we're not doing that." And once again, they're not doing that. And we're in year 4 of his tenure, halfway through year 4 of his tenure, and we're having the same discussions. And at some point, you've got to cut ties and decide it's just not working. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. This is a business. It's a results-oriented business, and you have to treat it as such. And at some point, you just got to say, "Hey, man, this isn't working," and you've got to go do something else, and you got to make a change. And I feel like that's what's going to happen at West Virginia. It probably won't happen in the middle of the season. It'll probably happen after the season, assuming this spiral continues. I mean, look, let's face it, our schedule's getting even tougher. We have a top 10 ranked TCU coming to Morgantown. Then we have to play Kansas State. We still have Oklahoma State on the schedule. We still have Oklahoma on the schedule. It's not going to get any easier, folks. And still have to go to Ames, Iowa and play. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe for this staff and this team. I will be, whether I'm in the stands or at home, I will be cheering on this team every week like I always do. But, man, I really, really hope something changes soon because us fans, the state of West Virginia, and this program deserves better. Well, let me know, Mountaineer Nation, what your thoughts are on this game. If you're a Texas Tech fan watching this, I want to hear your thoughts on this game. Hats off to you. Looks like you landed a good coach in Joey McGuire. Looks like he's put together a good staff. He's got all his players bought in, playing hard for him. Looks like you've got a pretty good team there in Lubbock. Have played a tough schedule. Are 4-3 at the moment and have a chance to make some noise in the Big 12. So hats off to Texas Tech. A good performance, dominant all the way around. So hats off to them. Don't want to lose sight of that. Give them credit for doing what they needed to do and doing it well. So that being said, folks, if you want to support my channel here on Couz's Corner, you can join the channel, become a channel member by hitting the join button below. Take advantage of the perks I have to offer. I'm going to be doing a drawing here probably within the next day or two to give away a mini helmet. I haven't forgotten about that. I've been off. This is the first video I've done since I've been back from a week's vacation in Florida. You might be able to tell by my sunburn here. I apologize for the lighting issues. I'm having to do this outside of my normal studio, so my lighting and everything is a little different. But you can support me financially by hitting the join button. You can buy merch by checking out my merch store links at the top of the description box. If you want to support me for free, there's 4 ways you can do it. You can like this video, share this video with your friends, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about the Mountaineers' loss in Lubbock to the Red Raiders and what you think about Neil Brown and the staff moving forward. Do you think a change needs to be made? And last but not least, you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I'm almost at 3,700 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the calendar year. That's going to be a tough road to hoe. It's got less than 3 months to do that. So I'm probably not going to get there, but you can do your part if you don't mind. If you haven't hit the red subscribe button yet, please do that. Try to help me get to that goal of 5,000. With that being said, I really appreciate you tuning into this video. And until the next one, Q Country Roads.